Good morning, students. Today we will discuss diabetes and pharmacology of insulin. Before going ahead with the diabetes and its relation with the insulin, first we'll discuss a little bit about the diabetes mellitus, its sign and symptom, its complications. Diabetes mellitus is a metabolic disorder that is characterized by hyperglycemia. What is hyperglycemia? When the blood glucose level is more than 7 millimole per liter, that condition is known as hyperglycemia, especially the fasting blood glucose level. When the blood glucose level increases, it will cause some osmotic effects, and those effects are diuresis, means frequent urination, that is also known as polyuria, thirst and polydipsia. On later stage, there will be blurred vision due to the retinopathy. In the further slide, we will discuss what is retinopathy. Whenever the glucose is not there in our system, it will be not converted into the glycogen. There will be a loss of calories. There is an inability to store energy as glycogen or fat. That will lay down protein in muscle. It will also cause weight loss with loss of fat and muscles. Another symptoms is amyotrophy, which is common for the uncontrolled diabetes. Types of diabetes, there are major two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is known as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, IDDM. It is also known as juvenile onset diabetes mellitus. Mainly this is caused by the beta cell destruction in the pancreatic cells. Majority of cases are autoimmune. In those, circulating insulin levels are low or very low. Patients are more prone to ketosis. Ketone bodies are there. This type 1 diabetes is less common and doesn't have the genetic predisposition. Next one is the type 2, that is non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, NIDDM, and it is also known as maturity onset diabetes mellitus. In this type, there is no loss of beta cell, but the insulin level is low and it is having the high degree of genetic predisposition, and it will occur at the middle age of life, that we can say that it's late onset diabetes, and most of the diabetes are type 2 diabetes. We can say over 90% cases of diabetes are type 2 diabetes. Mainly it is caused due to the abnormality in glucoreceptors of beta cells. There is reduced sensitivity of peripheral tissues to insulin. It means our tissues or our receptors are not responding to the insulin. There are so many complications due to the diabetes. It is characterized by abnormalities in the metabolism of carbohydrate, protein and fat. This insulin is responsible for the metabolism of these carbohydrate, protein and fat. It will not get metabolized properly, and it is associated with so many microvascular and macrovascular metabolic complications. The areas or the organ which are affected by the diabetes are the eye, and those retinopathy is there. In brain, heart, where the coronary circulation is affected and it will cause the coronary heart disease. Kidney is also affected. Then veins are also affected by this diabetes. There are so many microvascular and macrovascular complications. In the picture we can see, first we'll discuss microvascular. These are the complications like retinopathy, nephropathy and neuropathy involving the peripheral nerves and autonomic nervous system. Macrovascular complications are like stroke, peripheral vascular disease and myocardial infarction. That is due to increased atherosclerosis caused by increased amount of LDL. Little bit we'll discuss about the pancreas. There are cells which will secrete insulin. In the adult pancreas, that is made up of collection of cells called islets of Langerhans. About 1 to 2 million isolates are there, and 4 major cell types which will secrete different type of secretions. Those cells are alpha cell, beta cell, delta cells and gamma cells. In the picture we can see with the different colors. In the blue, sky blue, that is the beta cells, deep blue, that is the alpha cells, and in the pink it is the delta cells. Now we'll discuss few things about the functions of alpha, beta and delta cells. In case of diabetes, this beta cells are having more importance. It will produce insulin, and insulin is anabolic. It increases the storage of glucose, fatty acids and amino acids. Next is the alpha cells, which produces glucagon, and glucagon is catabolic hormone. It will mobilize glucose, fatty acids and amino acids from the storage into the bloodstream. It will also increase the plasma glucose by stimulating hepatic glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. It will also increase lipolysis in the adipose tissues. Next is the delta cells. It will produce somatostatin, which inhibits the secretion of insulin. Whenever the demand of insulin is less, then the somatostatin will be increased. It will also inhibit the secretion of glucagon and pancreatic polypeptides. F cells, it is also known as PP cells, it is responsible for the production of pancreatic polypeptide, which slows absorption of food. In the picture, we can see the major cell is alpha cells, beta cell and gamma cells. They are closely interrelated for the balance of their secretions. Beta cell secretes insulin, alpha cell secretes glucagon, and delta cell secretes somatostatin. There are two types of line. One is the dotted blue and the second one is the red line. The red arrow shows the increase of secretion, stimulation, and the blue line shows the inhibition of these hormones. These are closely interrelated. Now we'll discuss few things about the insulin, its physiology, its biosynthesis, and its actions. Insulin was discovered in 1921 by Banting and Best, and it is first obtained in pure crystalline form in 1926. Chemical structure was fully worked out in 1956 by Sanger, and they explained that this insulin is a 2-chain polypeptide having 51 amino acids, and the molecular weight is approximately 6,000. They also explained the structure of insulin that we have discussed earlier, that is 2-chain polypeptide, A chain and B chain. A chain has 21 amino acids, whereas the B chain has 30 amino acids. Both the chains are held together, are joined by 2 disulfide bonds. As we have discussed earlier, that beta cells of the pancreas secretes the insulin. The precursor molecule of insulin is a single chain peptide, that is pre-proinsulin, and this pre-proinsulin have 110 amino acids, from which 24 amino acids are first removed, and that product is known as proinsulin. The connecting or C peptide having 35 amino acid is further split off by proteolysis in the Golgi apparatus. This is the structure of insulin, in which we can see there is a connecting peptide which will further remove the A chain and B chain, which is joined by the disulfide bond. This is also an explanation of A chain and B chain, the number of amino acids and how they are joined with the disulfide bonds. The amino acids sequence of insulin molecule varies from species to species. These differences do not affect the biological activity of insulin. Therefore, the previous insulin which was available in the market was the produced by the pig or cows, but the insulin which was produced by the cows, pigs are having some antigenic effect, and it will induce the antibody formation against the injection of insulin when it is given to the human beings. It will provide the antigenic effect when this insulin is in the use for a longer duration of time. But nowadays, human insulin is now available, and due to use of human insulin, the earlier problems of antigen antibody reactions has been resolved now. Now we'll discuss the biosynthesis of insulin in our system. Insulin is synthesized, as we have discussed, this is synthesized in the beta cells, and in the beta cells of pancreas, insulin is synthesized in the rough endoplasmic reticulum as a part of a larger pre-pro hormone called preproinsulin. Release of connecting peptide of C-peptide. After the formation, it will act via the receptor, that is insulin receptors, and these insulin receptors are almost present in all the cells. Insulin receptors are glycoprotein tetramer made up of 2 alpha and 2 beta subunits linked by disulfide bridges. How insulin acts? Mechanism of action of insulin. Insulin acts via the receptor, and that is the insulin receptors. First, insulin binds to the alpha subunit of receptor, causes autophosphorylation of beta subunit. There is change in cytoplasmic protein enzyme, by which there is an activation or inactivation of enzymes, and further insulin provides its effects. What are those effects of insulin? Insulin provides its effects. Those are rapid effects, intermediate effects, and delayed onset action. First, we'll discuss the rapid action, which occurs in the seconds. It increases the transport of glucose, amino acids, and potassium into insulin sensitive cells. Intermediate actions, which occurs in the minutes. Stimulation of protein synthesis is one of them. Inhibition of protein degradation. Activation of glycogen synthase and increased glycogenesis. Another one is the inhibition of phosphorylase and gluconeogenic enzymes, which will decrease gluconeogenesis. And delayed action, which occurs in the hours. It increases in mRNA for lipogenic and other enzymes. It means there is an increased lipogenesis. Insulin acts on various metabolic processes. One of them is the carbohydrate metabolism. It reduces rate of release of glucose from the liver by inhibiting glycogenolysis, stimulating glycogen synthesis, stimulating glucose uptake, stimulating glycolysis, as well as inhibiting gluconeogenesis. Apart from this, it will increases rate of uptake of glucose also into all insulin sensitive tissues, mainly in the muscles and adipose tissues. On lipid metabolism, it reduces rate of release of free fatty acid from the adipose tissues. It also stimulates de novo synthesis of fatty acids and also the conversion of fatty acids to triglycerides in the liver. Apart from the lipid metabolism, it will also act on the protein metabolism. It stimulates the transfer of free amino acids across the plasma membrane in liver and muscles. It stimulates protein synthesis and reduces the release of amino acids from the muscles. The major factors which regulates insulin secretion are the sympathetic nerve stimulation and parasympathetic nerve stimulation. Sympathetic nerve stimulation to the pancreas, it will cause the inhibition of insulin secretion, and affecting the parasympathetic stimulation to pancreas increases the insulin secretion. It means by the sympathetic and parasympathetic action on the pancreas, there is an inhibition of insulin secretion and the increase in the insulin secretion. By the oral administration of glucose, it will increase the insulin activity comparative to the intravenous administration to glucose. This is all about the diabetes mellitus, its introduction, biosynthesis of insulin, and few important effects of the insulin. In the next class, we will discuss the various forms of insulin which are available in the market and oral hypoglycemic agents. Thank you, class. Good morning, students. Today we will discuss oral hypoglycemic agents. What are these oral hypoglycemic agents? These are the drugs which are orally effective blood glucose lowering drugs. It is used to treat the diabetes mellitus, especially diabetes mellitus 2. This blood glucose lowering effect was the adverse event of a drug sulfonamide, which was observed in 1940. This side effect is being used to treat diabetes mellitus. In 1957, there was a derivative of sulfonamide which was tolbutamide and clinically acceptable. In 1970, the second generation sulfonylurea were developed, and the second generation sulfonylurea was 20 to 100 times more potent than the first generation. Classification of oral hypoglycemic agent. Before going ahead with the classification, we have to remind the diabetes mellitus causes. We have discussed in the earlier class that there is a reduced secretion of insulin. Moreover, our cells is not responding for the insulin. Keeping in mind all those mechanisms, this is the classification of oral hypoglycemic agent. What we have to do for the controlling the glucose, the elevated blood glucose level? First thing, we can do more number of insulin. That is the first classification, that is enhance insulin secretion. The drugs which are enhancing the insulin secretion. Further, these drugs are sub-classified into sulfonylureas, meglitinide, glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonist, dipeptidyl peptidase 4, that is DPP4 inhibitors. Second classification is the overcome insulin resistance, and the drugs are begonides, thiazolidine diones. This is the major two classification for the oral hypoglycemic agent. Apart from that, there are few drugs which are not enhancing the insulin secretion, moreover not overcoming the insulin resistance. Those are miscellaneous anti-diabetic drugs, subclassified as alpha glucosidase inhibitors, amylin analog, dopamine D2 receptor agonist, sodium glucose cotransporter 2 SGL2 inhibitor. First we'll discuss sulfonylureas. These are potassium ATP channel blockers. These are classified based on their origin. First was the first generation sulfonylureas. Example is tolbutamide. Another one is the second generation sulfonylureas. Examples are glibenclamide, glipizide, gliclazide, glimepiride. All these sulfonylureas are having the similar pharmacological effects, and these sulfonylureas are mainly utilized to treat the type 2 diabetes. As we have discussed earlier, that the second generation sulfonylureas are more potent, approximately 20 to 100 times more potent, and clinically superior than the first generation sulfonylureas. Now I'll discuss one by one. First we'll discuss the mode of action. How the sulfonylureas provide their effect. Provoke the release of insulin from the pancreas. It will increasing the release of insulin as and when required. Production of glucose in the liver is inhibited, by which glucose concentration is being reduced in our system. Apart from that, they are also increasing the number of insulin receptors and enhancing the peripheral use of glucose. It means the glucose which are not being converted to the energy in our system is being used, by which the glucose concentration is being decreased. For the effect of sulfonylureas, there is a condition that 30% functional beta cell must be there, and that is essential for the use of sulfonylureas. Apart from these mechanisms, hepatic degradation of insulin is also decreased. It means whatever the insulin is being secreted in our system, that should be remain in our body, and that will be used for the conversion of glucose. There are some extra pancreatic actions of sulfonylureas also. What are those? After a few months, the insulinemic action declines due to the down regulation of sulfonylurea receptors on the beta cells. They also sensitize the target tissues, especially liver, to the action of insulin, and that is due to the increase in number of insulin receptor. It increases insulin receptor on target cells and to inhibit gluconeogenesis in the liver. Pharmacokinetics of sulfonylureas. All the sulfonylureas are well absorbed after oral administration. food and hyperglycemia can reduce the absorption. There is a condition to provide the sulfonylureas. It must be given before 30 minutes of meal. Why? Because after the digestion of meal, there is an increased secretion of glucose, increased concentration of glucose in our body. To treat that, to manage that hyperglycemia, it must be given 30 minutes before the meal. It is 90% or more bound to plasma protein, having the low volume of distribution, that is 0.2 to 0.4 liter per kg. All the sulfonylureas are metabolized in the liver, and the metabolites mainly excreted via urine. There are few adverse events also. First one is the hypoglycemia, that is very common. It may be severe and rarely it is fatal. Non-specific side effects are nausea, vomiting, flatulence, diarrhea, sometimes constipation and headache. When we are starting the sulfonylureas to the patients, there is a gain of 1 to 3 kg of weight. Hypersensitivity reactions are also there due to the sulfonylureas. Those are rashes, photosensitivity, purpura, transient leukopenia and rarely agranulocytosis. Next classification is the meglitinide phenylalanine analogues, that is also known as potassium ATP channel blocker. Example is the repaglinide. It is the derivative of benzoic acid. Moreover, the mode of action is similar to the sulfonylureas. It binds to the sulfonylurea receptors, closes the ATP dependent potassium channel. Due to that, depolarization is there, and due to the depolarization there is a secretion of insulin. It is quickly absorbed and rapidly metabolized. And the same condition like the sulfonylureas, it should be administered before each major meal. The adverse events, or we can say side effects, are mild. Those are headache, dyspepsia, arthralgia and weight gain. Repaglinide is indicated for type 2 diabetes with pronounced postprandial hyperglycemia. The patients who are showing more concentration of glucose after the meal, it is a better drug, a drug of choice to control the postprandial hyperglycemia. Next drug of this class is nataglinide. It is a D-phenylalanine derivative. It stimulates the first phase insulin secretion by closing the beta cell potassium ATP channel. Faster onset and shorter duration of action. It is administered 10 minutes before the meal. It is metabolized primarily by the liver and 16% excreted by the kidney as unchanged drug. Adverse events of nataglinide: dizziness, nausea, flu-like symptom and joint pain. Next classification of drug is glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonist, GLP-1 agonist we can say. What is this GLP-1? It is an important incretin released from the gut in response to ingested glucose, which induces insulin release from the pancreatic beta cell, inhibits glucagon release from alpha cells, and slows gastric emptying and suppresses appetite. If we will administer the agonist of this GLP-1, we can manage the diabetes too, because it will induce the release of insulin. It inhibits the glucagon release, which is just opposite action of insulin. Moreover, this GLP-1 slows down the gastric emptying time. Due to the slowed gastric emptying time, the absorption of glucose is being reduced. They acts on specific GLP-1 receptor. Where these GLP-1 receptors are present, these are present on beta and alpha cells, central and peripheral neurons, and in the gastrointestinal mucosa. This GLP-1 receptor agonists are not recommended alone. Monotherapy is not useful because of rapid degradation by the enzyme dipeptidyl peptidase 4, that is the DPP4. It is being degraded by this enzyme. The next classification is based on this enzyme, that is the DPP4. If we will inhibit the action of DPP4, we can induce the action of GLP-1 receptor agonist. The next classification is the dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitors, those who are degrading the DPP1. Example is sitagliptin. It is the competitive and selective DP4 inhibitor. It potentiates the action of GLP-1. Their action is they boost postprandial insulin release, which is required in case of diabetes mellitus 2. It decreases glucagon secretion, which is having the just opposite effect of insulin. Insulin used to metabolize the glucose, and this glucagon increases the gluconeogenesis. It means increases the glucose synthesis in our system. Moreover, it lowers the fasting blood glucose in type 2 diabetes. This sitagliptin is recommended when metformin cannot be used. It is well absorbed orally and little metabolized, excreted unchanged in urine, having the half-life of approximately 12 hours. Few side effects are also there, like nausea, loose stools, headache, rashes, allergic reactions, and edema. Next drug or next classification is begonide, that is the AMPK activator. Important drug is metformin. Mechanism of action of metformin is the activation of AMP dependent protein kinase AMPK. It suppresses hepatic gluconeogenesis and glucose output from liver. It means new glucose is not being formed and glucose output is also suppresses from the liver. second probability of mode of action, it enhances insulin mediated glucose uptake and disposal in skeletal muscle and fat. It also interferes with mitochondrial respiratory chain and promotes peripheral glucose utilization through anaerobic glycolysis. It means peripheral glucose utilization is being increased. Due to that, the glucose concentration in our blood is being decreased. Pharmacokinetic and adverse effects of metformin. It is absorbed especially in the small intestine. Plasma protein binding is negligible, mainly excreted via urine in unchanged form. The half-life is approximately 2 hours. Adverse effects. Adverse effects are frequent but not serious. What are those? Abdominal pain, anorexia, bloating, nausea, metallic taste, mild diarrhea, and tiredness. One important adverse event is lactic acidosis. It is increase of lactic acid in the blood, or we can say the lactate. It is rare. When we are providing the high dose of metformin, there is a vitamin B12 deficiency. Metformin is not recommended to renal impaired patients. There are few drugs which increases the toxicity of metformin, that is a cimetidine, furosemide, which competes with the metformin excretion and enhances its toxicity. This metformin is a drug of choice for the diabetes mellitus 2. It's having certain advantages over other drugs. What are those? First one, it is non-hypoglycemic. It means the blood glucose level is not so much decreased by which hypoglycemia can be there. It promoting the weight loss. It prevents macrovascular as well as microvascular complications. There is no acceleration of beta cell exhaustion. It can be combined with any other oral or injectable anti-diabetic drugs. Next classification is thiazolidinedione, and the example is pioglitazone and rosiglitazone. Rosiglitazone is having so many adverse events, therefore it has been withdrawn from the market as well as banned in the India. So we'll discuss pioglitazone. Pioglitazone is a selective agonist for the nuclear peroxisome proliferator activated receptor gamma, that is PPAR gamma, which is present mainly in fat cells but also in muscles and some other cells. It reverses insulin resistance by enhancing GLUT4 expression and translocation. It improves the entry of glucose into muscles and fat. Apart from this, there is a hepatic gluconeogenesis is also suppressed. pharmacokinetics and adverse events. It is absorbed within 2 hours. It is metabolized by the liver by both CYP2C8 and CYP3A4. Ketoconazole and rifampin inhibited its metabolism. Few adverse events are also there. Plasma volume expansion, edema, weight gain, headache, myalgia and mild anemia. There are few cases of hepatic dysfunction. CHF may be precipitated due to the pioglitazone. Next classification is alpha glucosidase inhibitor. It reduces intestinal absorption of starch, dextrin and disaccharide by inhibiting the action of alpha glucosidase in the intestinal brush border. Inhibition of this enzyme, alpha glucosidase, slows the absorption of carbohydrate as well as slows the postprandial rise in plasma glucose, by which we are managing diabetes. Few adverse events are also there with these drugs. Those are dose related malabsorption, when these carbohydrate and glucose is not being absorbed, there is a malabsorption. Flatulence, diarrhea and abdominal bloating. Next drug, or we can say the next classification, is amylin analog. What is this amylin? Amylin is a 37 amino acid peptide that is produced in pancreatic beta cells and co-secreted with the insulin. It is also called isolate amyloid polypeptide, IAP. It acts in the brain. By acting on the brain, it reduces glucagon secretion from alpha cells. If glucagon is less, then there is no increase of blood glucose level, because glucagon increases the gluconeogenesis. By acting on the brain, it reduces or delays the gastric emptying time. It retards glucose absorption. Example is pramlintide. It is a synthetic amylin analog which is given subcutaneous injection. It means this amylin analog is not oral hypoglycemic agent. Next classification is the sodium glucose cotransporter 2 inhibitors. All the glucose reabsorbed in the proximal tubules after the glomerular filtration, and the major transporter of reabsorption of glucose is SGLT2, that is the sodium glucose cotransporter 2. These SGLT2 inhibitors induces glycosuria and lowers blood glucose level in type 2 diabetes. It means more concentration of glucose is there in the urine and it is being excreted, by which there is a less concentration of glucose in our blood. Example are dapagliflozin. Glucagon, this is another hormone secreted from the alpha cells of the isolate of Langerhans. What is the use of glucagon in diabetes mellitus? It is having the opposite to that of insulin. causes hyperglycemia by enhancing glyconeogenesis and gluconeogenesis in the liver. Whenever the hypoglycemic condition is being developed, in case of emergency, this glucagon is being administered to the patients, by which the condition of hypoglycemia can be reversed. This is all about the oral hypoglycemic agents, their classification, their mode of action, and their adverse events. Thank you for today class.